Airports are more than just places of transit. They're crossroads of stories, emotions, and humanity. Gate 24 at JFK that day was no different. The bustling energy was palpable, travelers rushing to make connections, announcements cutting through the air, and the rhythmic clatter of suitcases echoing across polished tile floors. Yet, amid this controlled chaos, an unexpected moment was about to unravel, one that would leave an indelible mark on everyone present. She stood out immediately, a woman in her late 40s, impeccably dressed in a tailored navy blazer and heels that clicked sharply with each step. Her posture exuded confidence, the kind that turns heads and silences whispers. But today, her gaze wasn't commanding respect. It was fixated, laser-like, on a boy who seemed to defy her expectations. He couldn't have been more than 16. His outfit was simple: jeans, a hoodie, and a bright red hat that seemed almost defiant in its vibrance. That hat, with 4 bold letters embroidered on the front, made her jaw tighten, her pulse quicken. First class, she thought, her expression hardening as if the mere notion was an affront. As the boarding call echoed overhead, the boy adjusted his backpack and stepped forward, ticket in hand. But she wasn't going to let him pass without scrutiny. Her heels clicked louder as she moved to intercept him, her polished demeanor now a mask for rising indignation. "Excuse me," she began, her voice dripping with condescension. "Are you sure you're in the right line?" He looked up, startled but composed, and held up his ticket. "Yes, ma'am, first class." His tone was polite, firm, unshaken. The tension was immediate, palpable. The woman's scoff was loud enough to draw glances from others in the queue. "First class," she repeated, her voice heavy with disbelief. "You? Really?" A murmur rippled through the crowd. Eyes turned toward the young man, then back to her. Some looked curious, others disapproving. Yet the boy stood his ground, his calm demeanor unwavering. As she continued her tirade, questioning his presence, his attire, and, by extension, his worthiness, the boy's silence became his armor. And then, with a quiet dignity that belied his years, he finally spoke. "Ma'am," he said, his voice steady and deliberate, "I'm here to board my flight like everyone else. My ticket's valid. Where I sit shouldn't concern you." The crowd stilled. It wasn't just what he said, it was how he said it. No anger, no malice, just a simple assertion of truth. But the moment wasn't over. The gate agent, sensing the growing tension, intervened. She examined the boy's ticket, her expression shifting as she read the name aloud. Baron Trump. The name landed like a thunderclap. Conversations halted, and the woman's indignation turned into a stunned silence. Yet it was Baron's next words that truly changed the atmosphere. "My dad always told me," he began, his voice calm but resonant, "to treat people with respect, even when they don't show it back, because how you act says more about you than anyone else." His words hung in the air, a quiet rebuke wrapped in grace. The woman flushed, her earlier confidence crumbling under the weight of her own actions. Around them, the crowd began to shift, not physically, but emotionally. Whispers of admiration for the boy's composure mingled with glances of disapproval directed at the woman. Some reached for their phones, recording what had already become a powerful story in the making. As Baron turned to board the plane, he paused, looking back at her one last time. His tone softened, but his words carried a quiet power. "I hope your day gets better," he said, sincerity radiating in his voice. "And I hope you'll think twice before making someone else feel small." The woman's shoulders sagged. She opened her mouth to respond, but no words came. The crowd, now silent, seemed to hold its breath, watching as she stepped aside, her earlier indignation replaced by visible regret. What happened next was unexpected. A young mother, cradling a toddler, stepped forward and addressed the woman. "You know," she said, her voice calm but firm, "you really owe him an apology." The woman's gaze dropped, her expression one of dawning realization. But Barron was already gone, his red hat visible as he disappeared down the jet bridge. As the flight ascended into the skies, the impact of what had unfolded at Gate 24 lingered. Passengers, strangers, mere moments ago exchanged quiet conversations about respect, assumptions, and the power of grace. For Barron, it was just another flight, another moment to rise above the noise. But for everyone else, it was a story, a reminder that kindness and dignity can shine brightest in the face of adversity. And for the woman, it was a turning point, an unplanned lesson in humility that she would carry long after the plane touched down. What about you? How often do we judge without understanding? How often do we let assumptions cloud our view of others? Let's challenge ourselves to rise above, to listen, to see beyond appearances. If this story moved you, take a moment to reflect, to share, and to join us for more stories that inspire, challenge, and remind us of the power of humanity. Subscribe to our channel, and let's continue exploring the moments that shape us all.